All right, well, thank you everybody for having us. It's great to be here, great to be with Kim. I'm Tristan, Besse, head of brand management at Argonaut. At Argonaut, we're part of Project, but we believe that our timeless and timely methodology helps unlock creative that is impossible to involve to clients such as Pernod Wireless, Fitbit, NerdWallet, Dodge, VW, and a client that we're going to talk about right now, which is where Kim is, Pernod Ricard. Kim, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So you're in the midst of a pretty good run at Pernod. You've been there for 12 years. You're overseeing a portfolio of brands. So we've got Jameson, Absolute, Malibu, Screwball, I'm sure many more. But talk a little bit about kind of your journey to where you are today and kind of just what you're overseeing a portfolio of brands.
Yeah, so I'm originally from Alabama, but I'm not an Alabama fan, so do not say Roll Tide to me. I'm an Auburn fan. We've not hired our coach yet. I grew up in Alabama, ended up moving to New York for an internship in PR and never kind of left. And I think, I remember when I was an assistant at the PR agency, like back when you were an assistant, like you had to go through the trenches. And we had signed Turi Vodka as a client. And I was like, oh. And then we signed Grey Goose as a client. And I was like, oh. And then I ended up leaving. And then made my way to the West Coast where I got to work on the Grey Goose account. And I was like, wow, there's something to this like spirits thing. Made my way back to New York, and then a year later started at Pernod Ricard as an experiential manager and have been there ever since. And just had the opportunity to bring the really cool brands to life. I think iconic brands, like you mentioned, like Absolute, Jameson, Malibu, Chivas, The Glenlivet. We have a really broad portfolio. So yeah, that's what I've been doing the past 12 years.
Yeah, so we heard at the top, like obviously with this industry, kind of some ebbs and flows, and things can often change. Obviously went through a period of change, a few years ago with COVID, but the last couple of years, crowds have really come roaring back, and your team has ramped back up. Your budgets have ramped back up. I'm curious to hear you talk about kind of how your team has adapted and evolved. Like, what have you learned over the last couple of years, coming out of COVID, as crowds are coming back? Just what's changed for you? How have you adapted? How have you managed internally, kind of selling leadership, things like that on the importance of experiential?
Yeah, so not only right before the pandemic, we had a new CEO come in who was outside of the spirits industry, and she came in, pandemic hit, my team got blown up. I've got 2 of them are back, which is exciting. So finally building a team back, but we had a CEO that really built her strategy on paid media. And I think during the pandemic, of course, I think everybody's budgets got absolutely crushed and taken away, and ours all got put into paid media. So we had this like double uphill battle to fight. It was like, there is obviously, my husband's in advertising sales, like, please keep buying media. But, as a spirits company, putting all your money and putting all your big bets behind paid media is a little bit tricky when, we've got to be there we've got to show up. We've got to show up with our brands. And I think it's one thing, it's like we have a brand that you touch, feel, taste. And I think it was a little bit of it was a journey coming back. I think it took us a little while. We had globally that implemented a new measurement strategy or measurement system where we were able to show sort of the business impact when we did an event. So we slowly started to crawl our way back, and now we're back, and we're back to our festivals. We're back to our big brand-owned programming. We're backing up earned media campaigns with experiential. So and we've got a team, which is great. It was me for 3 years doing it all by myself.
Well, I think one thing that we had talked about that you were just touching on, is like during that period of the pandemic where all the media was going into paid. We talked about, like, you've seen it with brands where awareness is high, but we're not seeing consumption go up with it, and it's pointless to the business. It's not going to help drive the business, and so it kind of drives home the importance of how all of these different aspects of marketing really need to work together. Use the pay to get the awareness, but at the end of the day, like, it's liquid lips. We've got to get drinks in the hands of people.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, everyone knows what Jameson is, but like, are you in the bar drinking it? I mean, I hope so, but we didn't have brand ambassadors. Like, those are your conduit to bartenders. So I think all of these things play together, and I think, we've got these amazing paid media, amazing earned media campaigns, but, for brands like like Jameson, they're built in the bar. Like we've got to get in front of the customers, and I think it's so critical. And I think I feel so good when I see brands showing up, just like being there, being there. So yeah, I think it's critical for what we do. Absolutely.
Yeah. Awesome. So you guys are also responsible for some major tentpole sponsorships. I know you do some big stuff with the NFL. You've also got Coachella and Stagecoach. One thing that was really interesting to hear you talk about was, kind of like music in particular is this great kind of space where you see these cross-cultural moments happening. And you kind of referred to Stagecoach this year as lightning in a bottle for you guys. Talk a little bit about what happened there.
Yeah, so we've been a partner of Coachella and Stagecoach. We just today re-signed our deal, so I'm trying to get in there, sorry. So this will be year 14. But, I think those are just two. You think about music festivals and like you think about Coachella, it's probably one of the biggest in the US. And, Stagecoach has been kind of creeping up. And I think this was a down year for Coachella in terms of lineup. And then you saw Stagecoach. And what was wild, we were activating there with Jameson and Malibu. And, Jameson's a brand that you don't really associate with country music. I think it's more dark bars, but we really were able to bring the brand to life in a really fun and unique way. But what was so cool was at Stagecoach, like everyone thought Beyonce was going to be there. And there was this Cowboy Carter flyover, and I was convinced Beyonce was going to be there. And I was trying to drive to the AEG people, and they were like, well, I don't know. But what was so cool, you see like, and I still talk about when Post Malone performed and got up there and did a bunch of country covers, and he brought out, Brad Paisley and Dwight Yoakam. You just saw this like magic of these kind of like cross-cultural universes coming together. Wiz Khalifa closed out the show. Like it was just a really amazing. I think people were buzzing about it more than they buzzed about Coachella, probably since Beyonce performed. And I think we sort of talked about like those like such fertile grounds for really cool moments with your consumers and your brands. And like you remember the drink you were holding when the band came out and she played for Coachella, and when Kanye swung over the crowd, and then when Post Malone or when Morgan Wallen performed and Post Malone came out and they released a new song. I think it's just such a cool place to be with your brand that I will double down that you've got to, all these kind of cross-cultural moments are just such a cool place for the brands to be.
Well, you even see it like, when these guys are going on tour, like we were talking about Morgan Wallen as an example, like when he goes to these big arenas, we had, was it recently, they were in Tennessee, and he's walking out, he's got Peyton Manning walking out with him, and Peyton's in full uniform, like helmet on and everything. The place is going nuts. And then there was a good one that I saw too, where they were in Kansas City. He walked out, I think he had Pat Mahomes with him, Kelsey, but like, you just kind of see the blending of like country music and sport. Like it's really cool to see how those different cultures are crossing over.
Yeah. I think it's happening just more and more.
Yeah. So staying on the topic of football in the NFL, one brand I want to talk about that is so much fun that I love is Screwball. And there's a couple ways in which you guys are activating against that brand that I absolutely love. First was, so I remember earlier this year, it was the AFC divisional playoff, Bills and Chiefs were playing. I was watching on TV, and they were showing kind of a wide shot from inside of the arena, and I could see all the Screwball branding around. And I just thought to myself, holy shit, that is brilliant. Like, Bills Mafia, I get it. Tell me about Screwball and the relationship that you guys built with Bills Mafia over the last couple of years.
Yeah, so for those of y'all who don't know, Screwball is a peanut butter whiskey, and do not knock it until you try it. I promise. There's a bottle right back there. I'll run a tab if anyone wants to try it. But it's a brand we acquired about a year and a half ago, and as part of the acquisition, they'd done a deal with the Bills. And Screwball is really, it's a brand, it's for like, the black sheep, for the, the wild ones, and I mean the Bills Mafia. Like anyone who's gonna throw their kid through a table, like probably drink Screwball. So we took over the partnership, and we were like, wow, when we can, we've got that Ricard money. Let's go activate against it. So we built a tailgate. Screwball has this brilliant. It came from the founders, and like if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I'm not gonna try to like come up with a better idea, but it's called a puppeteer, and it's this contraption that goes over you, and you basically have to like, I would say like puppeteer the shot into your mouth. And God, those people were so into it. And it's funny, we did a lot of research, and it was like, people were like, Bill's Mafia and Screwball, this is just the perfect marriage. And, you know, it was a really fun deal that we got to activate to its completion. But yeah, I mean, it's like, it's talking about like really understanding what the brand is and like, and understanding the consumer and like meeting them where they are. Like they're there to show up and they will try it and then they will probably go buy it and drink it at Bill's game when they watch Bill's game.
Well, it's embracing their brand
Yeah.
and inviting them in and involving them in your brand as well. I think just a perfect marriage of two brands coming together. What's the other? You guys also have a sheet that you can.
Oh yeah.
You gotta talk about that.
Okay, so this is something that my corporate communications team shudders at. So the founders are constantly like pushing the limit. They're like, do something freakier, do something weirder. So our agency had this idea of like, what if we made this sheep, and if you milk the sheep udders, then Screwball comes out. So we call it the sheep teat shot machine. So when we had it this weekend at an event, and it's everybody, I mean, BJ Novak milked the sheep and took a shot of Screwball. Like, it's great.
Well, we should make that a prerequisite. Like anytime you're on a panel, you gotta bring a sheep.
I mean, it's a prototype. We got to get a more nimble sheep.
Yeah. You mentioned this past weekend at BJ Novak. Talk a little bit about Chain Fest and what you guys are doing there, because that's a good one for you.
Yeah, so they were in New York a couple weeks ago, but this group is doing, it's basically a chain food festival. I don't know if y'all saw this, but we got in contact with these guys. They've got BJ Novak's behind it. They've got a pop-up space in LA. John Mayer's the creative director. Chrissy Teigen's an investor. But they basically take like all your favorite nostalgic foods and they do a sort of Michelin star spin on it. But we were in LA and they had just, you know, White Castle, KFC. We did a partnership with Cracker Barrel, did a peanut butter sweet tea cocktail. It was great. And you talk about people that are just like going to spend $100 to just go eat fast food all day. Like those are people that'll try peanut butter whiskey. So we were out there and we activated. We had our sheep tea. We had the puppeteer. You know, we had the Kardashians were shooting. It was really like just a really cool weekend. And I think again, those are people that are open to try something different. You know, they're standing in line for a hot dog and a stick. Like those are people. So I think again, just kind of leaning into what the brand is and like kind of like, you know, sussing out like where those people are going to be. And it was really successful. It's like, we joke it's my passion project that this partnership is, but I think they're doing something really cool. And again, it's like that cross collaboration of like really, you know, a Michelin star chef like Tim Hollingsworth doing really high-end sauces for a KFC chicken tender, and it's amazing.
I hadn't heard of it.
Yeah.
So, you know, one thing that we talked a little bit about was, you know, is obviously every aspect of marketing is responsible for helping build the brand. And, you know, striking that balance of, you know, how do you continue to build on these timeless, kind of iconic brand elements, but showing up in a really authentic way in timely ways. How do you think about that, you know, as you're kind of activating, you know, at these different events and really like striving to carry forward some of these timeless memory structures to help with the brand building, but do so in a way that's really relevant. I know, you know, a couple examples we've talked about, but Jameson was one that you were really excited about in terms of some of the things that you're doing.
Yeah, so Jameson's one, I think it had a bit of a, like slept during the pandemic and woke back up. And, you know, we get a lot of campaigns that'll come down from our global teams and come down from the brand teams that we have to translate into IRL experiences. And we're always like, keep one foot on the base of like, how does it ladder up to the campaign? So the new campaign for Jameson's must be a Jameson. And we were all kind of like, what does that mean? But really what it is they're leaning into the Irish spirit. I don't know if you've ever hung out with Irish people. They're probably the most fun ever. They take nothing too seriously. There's they talk about Irish wit. They're really funny. It's all really light. And I think the idea behind Must Be a Jameson is like really like bringing the levity, and it's like kind of bringing the brand out of a dark bar, kind of giving it a little light. We did neons for Jameson, which is something that I never thought I would do. So, you know, every St. Patrick's Day, that's obviously our biggest holiday, there's a new campaign. The Earn Media team comes up with a campaign, and they did one last year, and it had no experiential. And then the new CEO comes in and he's like, how are we, and he's Irish, he's like, how are we not doing anything against St. Patrick's Day and experiential? I'm like, why? Ask those guys, that's not me. So this year we create the leap year gave us St. Patrick's Day was supposed to be on a Saturday. Leap year put it on a Sunday. So the team came up with this great idea. It's like, let's make our own holiday, St. Patrick's Eve. So we partnered with Colin Jost and Michael Che and did a whole campaign about celebrating the night before. So then it was like, well, what are we going to do for experiential? And I was like, well, I don't know. And it was like we had budget was like, eh. So we ended up kind of blowing the budget out of the water, and basically we dropped the ball at Times Square to a whiskey glass. So it was like the real ball. We did a countdown at midnight in Ireland, and we took over Times Square, and we had basically like, Dick Clark's Rockin' New Year's Eve in the middle of Times Square on March 16th. And it was probably one of the biggest activations we've ever done from a brand-owned perspective. But I think what was really cool about it is we were able to scale it. We had like 90 managed bar nights across the country. We did this, we took over the Sphere, we did the river, we did a whole like big boat on the river in Chicago. So I think it was really taking, you go from like this, oh my God, this new campaign to, oh, they got a really good earned idea. And then we just kind of blew it out and built a real big scalable program. So I think, that was our moment where like experiential was back. And then everyone was like, okay, now we're just like the train has left the station. So we're rolling again.
Hopefully nobody's asking about that budget.
We dealt with it.
Yeah.
Got handled at the last minute. So wonder I'm still here.
The other brand that we talked about a little bit that I think you guys do a really good job is Malibu. Kind of the experience that you guys create around that. If you want to talk about it.
Yeah, for sure. It's so funny. I feel like it's like pre-pandemic, post-pandemic. And we did a big, talk about music festivals. We did a big partnership with Live Nation, and we created this Malibu Beach House. And it was just one of those, it was one of my favorite programs. We were in it for about 8 years, and you're at a music festival, and it's just like this beach house. And we, it takes you somewhere. And I think Malibu's a brand where, you drink it on vacation, you drink it in the summer, but these festivals open it up, and we were able to get people to sort of consider Malibu. It's when it's hot outside, it's refreshing. But we had this really cool experience around the beach house. Unfortunately, they decided that they didn't want Malibu to be associated with the beach. I mean, don't even that's one of those global ideas. So, but we rethought it. The new campaigns around whatever tastes good. So Malibu tastes good. You can't tell me it doesn't. I won't believe you. And we kind of rebuilt the whole look and feel. And we're still at festivals, but I think the goal with Malibu is just when you walk in, it's sort of you want to kind of go
taking you into an oasis.
It takes you away.
Yeah.
It's like you're on vacation.
Yeah.
So.
That's awesome. All right, so I want to be mindful of time and leave a few minutes too, just for Q&A if people want to. But I think a few things just to kind of sum up. So really viewing the role of the brand as a facilitator of these special moments in culture. Liquid to lips, super important. Paid campaigns, driving awareness, that's great, but if at the end of the day we're not putting liquid to lips, it's just not going to raise consumption, which is critical. Loved what you said about just kind of meeting the team where they are, enveloping them in the brand, embracing their brand, and really seeing those things converge. And then that timeless and timely aspect, and really ensuring how you're building those timeless brand structures over time. All that to be said, you also have 3 key principles that you remember when you're building out an activation.
Well, I always say, give the people what they want. And, I think about when we're at Coachella, all these people want. They don't want to know about the new Absolute campaign. They don't care. They want AC, cold drinks, and good music. Just give the people what they want, I swear. Don't get wrapped up in the brand. Don't let the brand people, the brand teams, force you to force so much down the consumer's throat. I think you just have to really put yourself in their shoes and give them what they want.
Take nothing else away from this conversation. I hope it's that. That's great. I think, just checking time, we can open up to Q&A if people have any.
Thank you. So you have the interesting task of dealing with edgy personalities, edgy events, and kind of pushing the envelope. But then you're also doing it live in real time, which can open you up exponentially for all kinds of disasters, let's say. I'm curious how you become accustomed to managing that, and any sort of guidelines you put in place in order to help facilitate that to get the best possible outcome.
So just how, let me make sure I understand your question. Just sort of how we, I mean, it's like a constant bullet, like balls in the face. All, I mean, in a different way. Curveballs all day. Yeah, I mean, it's like,
Dodgeball.
yeah. No, I mean, with what we do, it's like, you can only imagine. I mean, we have an event in 2 weeks at the Tampa Bay Bucks, and I'm like, what are we doing? Like, I don't think we should be activating no matter what happens with this hurricane. You know, I think we're always on our toes. I think it's like the only change is the only constant in what we're doing. There's always something. I mean, I mean, we're all gluttons for punishment that do this, but there's something about it. I think like that end result of like the consumer drink in hand, great experience that kind of keeps you going. But you know, I think you just learn to be kind of one step ahead of what and anticipate what the next thing is going to be, and it's always something. You know, someone's going to run out of product. You got some. You know, we're out of espresso. We're out of espresso. We can't make espresso martinis. The glassware didn't come. So I think we're just like the ultimate problem solvers no matter what.
I run partnerships for Friday Leaders and Almost Friday Media. Our audience loves alcohol.
I'm your audience.
A lot. So the question is, obviously with LDA in mind, are you being targeted with that younger drinker, the next 21 to 25-year-old? Like, how are you engaging that audience stage? Which obviously doing a very good job of that, but outside of that, what else are you focused on?
You know, it's interesting. I think that audience, believe it or not, is like maybe not drinking as much, but you know, interested in like the lower ABV. I think we have to be very careful. You know, TikTok is just starting to be age gated, so where we can't really, we're not really on TikTok. I think some creators might use our products. But again, I think it's meeting them where they are. You know, it's like these music festivals. You know, Coachella. It's, you know, that Coachella median age just keeps getting a little lower. He gets a little nervous when legal asks about it. But you know, I think it's you know, I also think with our social media, like, you know, sometimes I think they try a little hard with. Sometimes when I don't understand what some of the posts are, I'm like. Or we tried a little hard with the memes, but you know, you know, it's this like collective effort to, I think, you know, kind of bring them in and continue to make products that will interest them. And I think that's RTDs and sort of like the ease of, like, you know, ready to serves RTDs. You know, we just launched a Absolute Ocean Spray partnership in cans, and they crushed it at Hangout Fest. So. I think, and those cans also crushed it at Coachella. So it's like this, like almost like, you know, new service style as well. So, but I love what you guys do. I think it's absolutely hilarious, and I'm constantly sending it to people. So.
I got you covered in the part.
Great.
Okay, right before we wrap, I think we talked about it maybe on a phone call. I mentioned it this morning. What you just said about just give them what they want. What about the dreaded measurement, reporting, analytics, ROI? You know, do we want to avoid that question right now?
Yeah,
Should we just go back to the bar and
yeah, let's go
drink?
back to the bar. No, I mean, this is like the constant, and you know, I think we've as a team, we're trying to with a program like Coachella, like our goal is to take it national. You know, in store. How do we get, you know, last 3 feet, point of sale? You know, co-branded. You know, in store, you know, all those big programs. I think, you know, with some of our smaller programs, how are we, you know, pushing to earn media? Like, how are we working with our PR team, getting influencers there, getting talent there, getting the right person there? Like, we had Audrina Patridge from the Hills DJ for an hour, and she's getting all this press pickup. So, I think it's just, you know, the measurement question is like, honestly, like I'm gonna crawl in my chair. And we have this new global measurement platform that, you know, it's helping us a little bit when we see these festivals. There's a lift in sales, like, thank God. But you know, we do our due diligence. We report as much as we can. I think it's always just so hard for us to tie back to like direct sales. It's just, we sell things at festivals, but you're never going to hit that 1-to-1.